Shalom. Our Torah portion this week is Tazria. We will be taking a look at the 12th chapter of the book of Leviticus, verses 1 and 2. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. And the Eternal One said to Moses, saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak unto the Israelite people lemor, saying, Isha ki Tazria v'yalda zachar, a woman who is with seed and gives birth to a male child. Now, at first reading, this passage looks like it has something to do with giving birth, especially giving birth to a male child. But we can interpret this verse in a lot of different ways. Levi Yitzchak of Bedurchev, a rabbi who lived in the Ukraine about 200 years ago, looked at it from the point of view of Kabbalah, that is, a mystical point of view. And he refers us to a line, a verse from the Zohar. Israel sustains their heavenly Father. Now, isn't that an interesting line? Israel, the Jewish people, sustains God. Usually, we think of God as sustaining us. But he says, if you're going to understand this passage that I just read, that a woman who gives birth to a male child, you have to understand that in some ways, it is Israel, it's humanity that sustains God. He also says that we should take a look at the book of Proverbs, chapter 10, verse 1. And there we read the words, the wise child brings a parent joy. So how is it that we sustain God? We, humanity, sustains God. And how is it that we bring joy, or oneg, as we say in Hebrew, to God? After all, God has a myriad of angels who worship him all of the time, saying, Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy. And yet, somehow, God pays attention to us. It is written that we are just a little lower than the angels. In some ways, it might be argued, we're even higher than the angels, because we have the choice of whether or not to fulfill the commandments. Angels have no choice. He goes on to say that when we fulfill the mitzvot, the commandments, when we perform deeds of loving kindness and justice, what we do, we help God we influence God. We help God to become a receiver. Usually it is God who gives to us. But when we perform mitzvot, when we do the right thing, it is God who receives from us. Now, in Jewish mysticism, we understand that there are two kinds of energy in the universe. There's masculine energy and there's feminine energy, not to be confused with male and female. Masculine energy and feminine energy are the possession of both men and women. Masculine energy is that generative force, that force of giving, of being active. Every man has that kind of energy. Every woman has that kind of energy. Feminine energy is a stiller kind of energy. It is that kind of energy that receives, that accepts the gift. Usually it is God who sustains us. Usually it is God who demonstrates that masculine energy. And we, humanity, demonstrate that feminine energy by receiving God's gifts. But when we perform the mitzvot, when we fulfill God's commandments, what we are doing, we are giving birth, so to speak, to the masculine energy. And our prayers and our deeds become a gift to God. And God, at that moment, becomes feminine in that quality, receiving our gifts. And this brings God much joy. much satisfaction. This whole idea raises up the status of human beings. It empowers us in our relationship with God, not only to be takers, not only to receive from God, but also to give to God. Well, I hope that you will read this week's Torah portion and come to your own conclusion. Shabbat Shalom.